What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrifice my time so you don't have to. So you're probably reading the title right now. Damn, that voice crack, though. You're probably reading the title right now, and you're saying to yourself, Devontae, what do you mean by that? What do you mean, Devontae? What? Here, I'm going to help you out right now, okay? 2 reasons why I typed the video out, or I typed the title out like that for the video. A, because I want to get rid of some of the people in the audience who just sees titles and thumbnails and doesn't actually watch the video, so they unsubscribe based off of the title that they see rather than looking at the context of the video. I really want to get rid of those people, so if they unsubscribe because of that, I'm very, very happy. And also, on top of that, for the people to come make assholes out of themselves and make themselves like complete retards, because the title in itself has absolutely nothing to do with the picture that you painted out due to the title in itself. When I say sucks, I don't mean that the wrestlers in themselves sucks. I mean the actual perceived, I'll probably say negative connotation laid upon them based off of their booking so far. So let's get that out of the way. And the second reason why I talked about this or made the title in that way is because I've been ranting about this for the past couple of weeks now, right? Whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, it feels like everybody's a victim to the same circumstance, and it's really, really pissing me off. So, as we've been noting so far, if you look at every wrestler who happens to be a champion at the moment, and honestly, it goes for the women world champions too. See, I put them, the main champions, Swerve, Strickland, Cody, Rhodes, Damien, Priest, and Trick Williams. I put them in the title because they happen to be the main champions for said brand. But this also extends, to let's see, for a Becky Lynch, for an example, who I haven't seen do much yet lately. This extends definitely to a Bayley. Haven't seen much out of her lately, and it goes well beyond that. Toni Storm, same way. It feels like everything, either you're not doing something or other people is usurping you in regards to the pecking order of things, right? It feels like today's professional wrestling, I don't want to say that they take for granted their world champions, because in order to take for granted your world champions, that would mean that the people that you put in that position, they're not really being... You see, I can look at someone like a Bayley, and I can probably say they're taking for granted their women's champion, for an example, but I feel like that's more of a bias based off of my perspective when looking at Bayley, because I like Bayley. Objectively speaking, overall, when talking about the world champions, I don't think that's taking anyone for granted, because you put them in that position for a reason, right? It's up for you to creatively fulfill that hole, that void, if you will, for people to want to engage with said wrestler. And lately we've been seeing the negative effect of that. We've seen actually the counterintuitive, if you will. Oh, is that right? Is that the right word? Counterintuitive? Yeah, I think so, right? Counterintuitive means like doing the opposite of common sense. Yeah, I think I used it in the correct sentence, because you got people in the comments. My point being is, staying on topic here. Yeah, they do things in a very counterintuitive manner as far as how they put the world champions on the people who they feel deserves to be world champion, but they never book them in a position to be seen as a world champion. And I feel like every wrestling company, for the most part, has this equity game. This equity agenda is what they're trying to play at the moment to make sure everybody gets to have TV time. But the problem with that is we focus on the world champion because the end goal is to see the person who's going to win said world champion get said world champion. And that's how we get invested into the superstars whose goal is to get the world champion and who we pay money to see go for the world champion. And we take that ride and that journey with them for months and for years even at that point, right? That's the goal. When you take the goal and you make it fucking nothing, and you don't present it in the manner of how it's supposed to be presented as said goal is intended to be, then all you do is ruin the superstar who we're trying to get behind go after that goal, right? And that could be said about any superstar within any division that they happen to participate in, right? If you go out of your way and you tell me that the prize money, for an example, happens to be $1 million, and everybody's racing to get that $1 million, and then we get there, and in reality it's, haha, prank bro, it was actually $1,000, right? So when the time comes and, you do the $1 million again, now granted, there may be some people who might be still be gullible as fuck to want to actually go for the run and do it, and who knows, you might get away with it for the second time, but by the 10th time when you are doing the same, it's just a prank bro, is really $1,000. Well, for the people who do remain, who do run in the race, it's not going to be as fun, it's not going to be as extravagant, it's not going to be as cool, because for the people who wanted the $1 million, you got the best of the best going in there, going for that goal, right? And that's the metaphoric comparison I'm making to the World Championship, in the sense of like, when you keep telling us over and over again that in reality the World Championship means nothing, because that's what you're doing vision-wise, right? When you book the World Championship to be placed second on the card or at the top of the hour, and I'm not talking about 8 o'clock, I'm talking about 9 o'clock if this was a Raw, or 10 o'clock if this was Raw, or 9 o'clock if this was SmackDown, or 9 o'clock if this was AEW or NXT. When you put them in the middle of the card and you don't come back to them at the end of the card, it makes them look irrelevant as fuck. If I was just a passerby skimming through the channels and I'm just getting into professional wrestling for the first time, and someone were to tell me that the world champion happens to be that scrub right there in the beginning of the 9 o'clock hour, and by the 10 o'clock hour, the last thing that I'm seeing, because we're humans, we tend to put the final thing that we see in our mind at the forefront, because that's what's going to linger in our mind when it's all said and done. Obviously, you heard the whole old-fashioned saying of, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. That's how we usually look at things as humans, right? It's embedded within our DNA to look at things that way, because in reality, all we really care about is the results. All we care about is the conclusion, right? So therefore, that's why I look at the World Championship and I say, why don't you come back to it? And here, it's not as if I'm saying that this has to be an everyday occurrence. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, 100% always put the World Championship in the main event. Obviously, there's going to be times where there's something really, 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 really fucking hot that needs to be in that spot, right? That's just going to happen to be the case. There's nothing in recent memory that tells me that it should take precedent outside of maybe The Rock teaming up with Roman Reigns, taking Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. That's the closest thing I can think of where I say to myself, okay, well, I can understand why that's taking precedent over the World Championship. I get that. But outside of the tag team match, for example, there's nothing you can tell me in recent memory, that I say to myself, oh, that story or those superstars are big enough where it's like, okay, yeah, that takes precedent over it. Because honestly, it's not just a superstar that helps out a lot, but it's also the contribution to the story in itself. Like, for an example, Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Kevin Owens 2 years ago at WrestleMania. Although it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, I wouldn't say that match in itself deserved to close out WrestleMania. I wouldn't. Even though it happens to just be Stone Cold Steve Austin, I still would say that the World Championship, they only had, at that time, I mean, it's good at that point in time, but let's just say hypothetically Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre this year happened 2 years ago for the World Championship, right? I will say that match should take precedent over Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens, because even though it's Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens, unless they had a strong build going into it, then that's good, because it's Austin and it's a strong build. But when it's just Austin showing up one time, nah, that's not big enough deal. That nothing will ever, be nothing, no name on its face will ever be big enough, no matter the circumstances of the situation, without a story that makes me believe that it has any merit over a world championship. Nothing in the world. That's how I think. And if you don't think like that, then what you're telling me essentially is that you put the championship on the guy just for the aesthetic, right? You put the championship on the guy just for decoration. And you know what you're telling me essentially? Because of that guy holding that world championship and they're not living up to the merit of the world championship moniker, you're telling me that they suck, right? Why isn't Cody Rhodes in the main event, but the King of the Ring finals happen to be in the main event? I'm not saying King of the Ring finals in the sense of the finals. I mean, like, the finals in the sense of, like, the ending of the show. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. My point, like, why is, and I get it. Like I said about Austin, it's Randy Orton. But it's Randy Orton and the King of the Ring. That should not take precedence over Cody Rhodes, the guy who ended Roman Reigns' 4-year near title reign. That should not take precedent over that. That shouldn't. What we should be getting is a linear story throughout the night focusing on Cody and Logan Paul. And like I said, let's just hypothetically say you wanted to still do Randy Orton and Carmelo Hayes in the end of the night. I said this last night on my SmackDown review. You can absolutely do that, but you need to come right back to Cody and Logan. If you're not going to come back to Cody and Logan, then what are you telling me? That the King of the Ring is a bigger deal than the World Championship? Right? You look at Dynamite. They're one of the most egregious examples when it comes to this, because they've been doing it long term for a long time. They would put their champions on the beginning of the show. They would show their champions in promo packages. Forget about them the entire fucking sometimes even upwards of 2 weeks. They won't show the world champion or even the world champion's opposition. They will just show video packages and interviews and weird shit like that without even reflecting on the world champion in itself. And the guys aren't injured, right? No. Look at Swerve Strickland for an example. He's a perfect example too because he's the current champion. Although you can just go right back. You can go to everybody outside of maybe Chris Jericho and maybe Kenny Omega, and I'm stretching it with Kenny Omega. Outside of those two guys, you can go back to the long history of the AEW World Championship, and you can see how they treat their world champions. They treat them like garbage. They treat them like shit. They never, ever get a legitimate fucking angle. Right now with Swerve Strickland, I think this is the first time I can actually remember them legitimately doing an angle, an actual fucking story attached to it. Not a promo and a guy getting offended over a promo. Not a guy working a backstage angle or whatever and a guy getting offended over a backstage angle. A legitimate story that ties in with the world championship. Not no guy running backstage and stealing a belt and haha, tag, you're it type of shit. No. An actual fucking story. Swerve Strickland and his family. That is the goal. That is the reasoning. The story takes precedent over the world championship, but the goal is the world championship, right? It takes precedent because the world champion on his mind, he's defending the title. The opposition wants the belt. The guy holding the belt wants revenge. That's what I'm saying. This is the first time in recent memory I can remember them actually going along the lines of this, right? It's not a fucking promo and blah blah blah. No. It's an actual story attached to it, right? Right? NXT, they pulled the same thing with Trick Williams these past couple of weeks now. Not one time do I remember Trick Williams in the past 2 weeks main eventing a show. You know, they have the Heritage Cup bullshit with fucking Tony D'Angelo and Charles Dempsey. That shit is taking precedent over the world championship. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's stupid. Damien Priest. I can't even tell you when was the last time Damien Priest main evented a Raw. I can't. I honestly can't. Maybe the 6-man tag match? I can't. You can't do shit like that and still try to relate to me that the fact that the world championship has any merit or credibility when you're doing crap like this. I can go back in the past. I know people hate when I go back in the past, but I can't relate to your generation because your generation never does anything right at all. It's fucking terrible. It's fucking horrible. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and it irritates the shit out of me because these are the same people that get upset when you bring up the attitude or you bring up things like this. But bruh, when you get even a fucking pinch of salt, like context from the attitude in today's professional wrestling, they lose their fucking minds. You take one little small element of the attitude era that was an ongoing every weekly thing that happened. And shit. Things like moving graphics, for an example, for a match card, get these retards popping. Like, think about that for a second. Match cards. The guys, the moving graphics, sometimes that kind of shit is what get people hyped for sometimes. Like, I think it was AEW. They had moving graphics. Oh my god, we're losing our fucking minds on Twitter. Little small things like that. That was just like, it was like a fucking small presentation in the attitude. These people lose their fucking minds over it. So don't give me the attitude era suck shit. You get a pinch of the attitude and you fucking lose your goddamn minds. And let me tell you, back in the days, yes. And here's the thing. There's the shit that kills me too. For everybody who I see say things about guys not being able to get over and shit like that, yes, obviously it has something to do with the skills, right? Yes, it has everything to do with the microphone skills. It has everything to do for focusing on stature. And so, yeah, obviously there's an optical thing that you have to look at from an aesthetic standpoint and say to yourself that these guys will never get over because of the way that they look. Who are they going to capture the attention of? Obviously, right? But at the same time, you do have to take into context the booking too and say to yourself, if the booking came correct, then this wouldn't be a problem, right? Right? I'll give you a perfect example of someone, for an example, who didn't really have charisma or personality, but because of how they were presented throughout the past couple of months, weeks, however you want to look at it, days, years, whatever, they still got over because of the booking. And he exists today, and he's a 14-time world champion, and his name is Randy Orton. Look at Randy Orton and his personality and his microphone skills. For the most part, say what you will about Orton, and I love Orton. He's kind of boring. When you take things in its correct context and you look at Randy Orton and you take anything involving Randy Orton and you put that into the average wrestler, you will say that that wrestler is boring. But because of the angles that you put Orton into to thrive in, the mischievous, crazy, diabolical, evil things that Orton did to his victims, whether in the ring or whether in an angle outside of the ring, when you gave Orton the opportunity to have something to run with, especially when he was the world champion, that's what we make the connection with. How did you think he got the Legend Killer moniker? He didn't get the Legend Killer moniker for going in the ring and wrestling Bruno Sammartino. I can tell you that much. He got it because he was RKing people who had prosthetic legs, right? He was RKing people, or prosthetic body parts. He was RKing old women, for an example, like Mae Young, right? Or Fabulous Moolah, one of those two. He was RKing people outside of their fucking prime. Legends. Bona fide legends. And that's how you get the Legend Killer moniker. He's fucking taking advantage of old people. That's how he got the moniker. He didn't get it for wrestling Bruno Sammartino. How did he get the Viper, the Apex Predator? You know, how do you think he got all these nicknames, huh? Because he's a slime ball. He's sneaky. You can't trust Orton. He's evil. He will fucking RKO your girlfriend. Actually, he RKO'd his girlfriend, Stacy Keibler. I was gonna use, he actually did that shit. Orton was the embodiment of evil. And people wanted to see Randy Orton get his ass kicked. And with all of that, builds up your repertoire as a character. Therefore, when that time actually comes, when you're now hitting the twilight of your career, like Orton is starting to approach right now at the moment, you spent 20 years doing the things that you did. Now you're looked at in a different light. Now you're looked at from the perspective of, well, goddamn, I remember this guy being one of the most diabolical characters on television. Mind you, Orton's microphone skills, not saying that they're bad, but they leave a lot to be desired, right? You look at Randy Orton's wrestling skills, for an example. I personally don't have a problem with Randy Orton's wrestling skill because I grew up in the era where that wrestling was just the norm. But for the younger people, there's no way you could look at, for an example, a Pento e Zero Let Go of My Ego match and then actually say to yourself that you're okay with watching Randy Orton wrestle. I don't buy it. I don't buy your bullshit. There's no way you look at Penta and then look at Orton and say to yourself, I appreciate Orton's wrestling style. It's very, very hard for me to believe that, especially if you're like 16, 17 years old, right? I don't believe you. You can say as much as you want to, but I just think you're saying it for the sake of an argument. I don't believe you, no matter what you say. But that's what I see, and that's what I look at when I say to myself, you need to use angles to get the world champions over, because if you're just constantly booking them to just rely on their promo skills, you get a Cody Rhodes, where, like, he's boring as shit. I don't care what anyone says. He's super fucking boring, and you can sit here and lie to yourself all you want to, but if you took the same microphone skills and the same characteristics in the Cody Rhodes, and you implemented that within the AEW wrestler, you'll be the first person to say that wrestler is boring as shit. So I don't buy anyone who's saying that. It's just some weird tribalism game. And that's something else too. It's hard to have these discussions with people because they're just mentally fucking retarded. Like they're far gone out of their minds. It's not even worth sometimes going into the comment section and arguing. And that's why I try my best to not, man, and it's so hard because they make so many fucking mistakes that you have no choice but to talk about them. But I wish AEW didn't make so many mistakes so I don't have to talk about them in a negative light so many times. Because all that does is strengthen an audience of tribalism, right? These people on the internet, you know, they're born in like 2001 or 1997 or 1999 or 2002, 2004, 2006. These people are fucking internet brain, bro. And they can't have discourse to save their souls. They're locked within the community, and whatever that community ideology happens to be, that's what they're going to use in order to like flourish. You know what I mean? That's why I try my best not to talk too much about AEW, because it's like, fuck, I don't want to foster a community of people who just hate AEW for the sake of hating AEW. That's why I make such long videos talking about my points, and I make it a bulletin point to focus on the things that I hate about AEW, but I will always highlight the good things, because the last thing that I want to do, because in reality, that's kind of like radicalizing people, right? That's radicalizing an audience. And we get people sometimes, like that King of Strong Style guy. I know he's a fan of the channel, and I like the guy for the most part, I guess, but he's such a fucking retard. And people go, oh, what the hell, you're calling out your subscribers? I do this shit all the time, bro. Like, I don't, maybe I like you in real life, I don't know, but he's a retard. He's a perfect example, the King of Strong Style guy. Like, this dude, we'll be talking about AEW, right? And I'll make a negative video on AEW. It is what it is. I'll make a negative video on AEW, and he's in the comment section, and he's like fucking throwing a celebration, a parade. He's like popping fireworks and shit like that. He's fucking insane. Like he's fucking rolling in the grave of AEW. And okay, cool, that's how you feel, that's fine. But then when you make a negative WWE video, or you talk about a wrestler in WWE video, he's insane. He'll say like, you're bipolar, you hate wrestling, you hate this, you hate that, these wrestling fans they're terrible, they don't like wrestling. When you were just talking about AEW, and it's like, you can't, these people are internet brain, and they're not worth taking seriously. You know what I mean? He's probably a good guy, but he needs to get off the internet. Like, these people are mentally fucking insane. So when you talk about the world champions in this manner, you just get pushback, and you're just sitting back, and you're just like, I don't get it. Like, you can have an opinion, and you can say, for an example, I like this wrestler, and we can have a discourse about that, but to be so egregiously biased, it's not helping out anybody, man. These people are so insane. It's insane. But let me know what y'all thought in the comment section below. I feel like this video was a long time coming. This is something that I've been fucking ranting on for the past couple of weeks, and I need to really get this off my chest, and I really wanted to put a video out on this. All the people who are currently world champions at the moment, they suck. That's not me saying this. That's what the bookers and the creative direction are dictating for me to say. Am I wrong? I'll tell you what. Go look at an Attitude. Just do me a favor, and I'll leave it off with this. Pick any Attitude Era video. I promise you, you will have fun, because it's not just wrestling, okay? You're watching a television show, right? I'm telling you right now, pick any Attitude Era video, particularly in 1998. Any Attitude Era video, particularly in 1998, especially around the spring to fall season. Pick any episode and watch it. And look how they book Austin. Watch 3 episodes from Monday Night Raw during the Raw is War era in the Attitude Era. Pick 3 back-to-back episodes of Raw in 98. And you'll be fucking cheering for Austin. You could probably be right now 20 years old, and you'd be cheering for Austin like he was a wrestler today. That's how it's done, and that's good booking of your world champions, and in general, wrestling as a whole. Oh, and also for people who are going to probably be like, well, Devontae, I mean, even during the Attitude Era and your same time frame, don't you realize The Rock, for an example, was a world champion, and Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't a world champion, and yada 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 yada. Okay, so let's make 2 things perfectly clear. One, it was it was Austin versus McMahon. That's a once-in-a-lifetime storyline that if you get an Austin and a McMahon, that takes precedent over a world championship. And 2, like, if you go back to both of those events, whether we're talking about Rock Bottom, for an example, where it was Austin versus Taker in a Buried Alive match, or Austin versus McMahon at St. Valentine's Day Massacre and a Steel Cage match, which had implications for WrestleMania in the main event, or the Royal Rumble main eventing the show over Rock and Mankind, Rock wasn't always taking precedent over it. I'll give you something like the King of the Ring in 99, for an example, with McMahon, even though it was still McMahon and Shane, still, in the end of the day. I will give you that to a certain degree, but even that, for an example, you're going to compare Austin and McMahon, you're going to compare that feud and say to yourself that the World Championship being on the Raw taking precedent over that's a good example compared to, say, the Elite taking precedent over Swerve Strickland? You're going to die on that hill? Alright, cool. Down that hill. That's fine. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces. P. Eyes.